In this video, I'm going to look at 3 mistakes that beginners make with a Japanese sword. You can look at them as hints and tips, ways to improve your swordsmanship, because maybe you're training a sword and you want to improve, so you look at these as hints and tips, but they're also looking at mistakes that people make. The first one to look at is grip. How do you hold a sword? So I see sometimes people holding a sword like this. The hand is right against the handguard here, the tsuba, and the other hand is right underneath it like this. And I often see images of people holding the sword like this, and the hands are too close together. Now, the way of holding a sword may change slightly from ruha to ruha or from tradition to tradition, but the way I was taught to hold a sword by Japanese teachers and Western teachers who have studied this art was you bring this down, so there should be a little gap where you can put your finger. So your finger just should fit inside the tsuba, so your hand should not be right against the guard. The bottom of the sword here fits then in the hand here. And this then goes around it. So the actual sword end is here. And this has a little gap just here. So there should be a gap, there should be a space in the handle here between the swords. And this allows you to have that leverage, it allows you to have a cutting leverage. If your hands are together like this, there is no cutting leverage. Which brings me on to the next thing. We looked at how we hold a sword, but what about the grip? How tight should it be? Well, one of the things I read many, many years ago was an old adage from Western swordsmanship, and that you should hold your sword like a bird. If you hold it too tight, you'll kill it. Hold it too loose, it will fly away. What I mean by that is, if you hold it too tight, then it's hard to do actions because your body's all locked up. You want it loose to do this, so you can move, freeze movements, and use your sword in an appropriate way, so it's flexible. So when I'm drawing, the sword has a kind of grip where it's flexible, but like a bird, hold it too tight, it's going to fly away from me. And actually, during using the sword, I'm going to go from a tight grip to a loose grip. When I'm cutting and hitting a target, the grip is going to tighten up. But when I'm manipulating the sword in certain ways, then it's going to have a loose grip. The second thing I want to look at now is posture. How do we take up a posture with the sword? One of the things I've noticed quite a lot is that people tend to be too high. So they kind of hold the sword like this. And the feet are very close together. And I think this is sort of come about from the Edo period, maybe from Kendo. After the Sengoku Jidai period, the Warring States period, swordsmanship changed. There was what's called the sword hunts, and Hideyoshi Toyotomi brought in certain rules of the sword, how long the blade could be, how long the tsuka, the handle could be, and they were cut down. That changed the way the sword was handled. And I'll talk about this on another video, but it changed the way the sword was used. The sword became a dueling weapon rather than a battlefield weapon. So the sword length, the length of handle, the way it was used, the postures changed. So possibly, I'm just surmising here, that when we see people stand like this, it's kind of a more modern, maybe sort of come about from the Edo period, and maybe later, maybe after the 1800s, when the sports kendo came in. I think around about 1860, if I remember correctly, but don't quote me on that. So around about 1850, 1860, kendo comes in, and the posture is a lot higher. In our Sengoku Jidai period, however, the posture is a lot lower. So it will tend to be down here. So look how low my legs are here. I want this for maximum cutting ability. If I'm here like this, I can cut in and use maximum power to cut. Okay, so getting the body low and cutting down. So most of our postures are very low. Very low. Geino no Kamae, Chura no Kamae, Seigo no Kamae. In fact, almost blading the body away, not standing like this, but actually standing more side on. Same with our Daijo down here, or into these different types of Geidan, Tolsui Geidan, Rusui. The legs are very low. The only one that's different to this might be is Hasu no Kamae, where the body is here and the feet are together. But when I cut again, my legs are going to be wide. There's a reason why I'm standing like this, by the way. which I'll go into again in another video. And the third thing I want to talk about is when cutting, go from kamae to kamae. I've seen, in some movies maybe, where they want to emphasize the dynamic movements of the sword. So the person draws a sword and they cut and the sword comes out here, it looks very dynamic. Or maybe when they're cutting from here, they're cutting here, again, it looks very dynamic, the head sticking forward. And why would you ever stick your head forward in a sword fight? Might be one reason for it, right? To try and tempt someone to attack you. But doing this would be quite dangerous, I think. And how do I get my sword back? If someone cuts out, I can get my sword all the way back to here. Now I always want to finish from kamae to kamae, go from kamae to kamae. If I'm in Daijodan and I cut, I can finish in Shura no kamae. From here, I can ski. Or maybe I want to move into Gedo no kamae, but where the tip is hovering just off the ground. But again, I'm ready. Maybe I'm coming from Hasso, so I want to stop that here. Again, now I can stab in this way, or if I'm cutting this way, I'm finishing this Tosuigei down, and again I can thrust in. So always go from kamae to kamae, and the same is true with taijutsu, your arm combat, bojutsu, long staff or short staff, always go from kamae to kamae. But anyway, there's a few tips, there's a few errors that people make. Please subscribe, like the video. I will produce more. There'll be another video very shortly on some more mistakes people make with the sword. But from then, until then, good training.